why does the world need to know about ProChemical or soil stabilization in general? So people ask me that all the time when they know my husband owns the company, and they will say, well, what is it that y'all do? And I say, well, we stabilize the soil. Well, what does that mean? And I said, well, basically, we go in pre-construction and treat the soil so that you're not calling foundation companies and spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, to get your foundation fixed. That's the gist of it. Bob Horn started the company, and when I first asked him, so what is it, that it really does, and he said, I'm going to put it in the simplest terms that I can put it in. And I know this isn't all factual and everything. It was just his simple, what is this doing? And he said, he says, if you take a sponge and you wet that sponge and you put it in a Ziploc bag, okay, it can't take on any more moisture. In other words, water will continue to run through it, but it won't dry out. And if you look at a sponge you wash dishes with it, it's all flat, fluffy, and the water's running through it, the soap's, soaping up in it. And then you get done and you set it up on the counter, your little cup that you keep it in, and it draws up and it cups, okay? Or it goes in the opposite direction, okay? But it sort of heaves. So when you look at houses on the internet, when they're describing how, what houses do when you talk about cupping or when they flex, that's exactly what the picture shows, that it's kind of got a bend and it heaves the house either on a corner or this. And so that was always been my explanation. And I say, well, in simple terms, if you think about a sponge, I use his analogy because it made sense to me. It's, the technical stuff when you're talking to engineers and all that, that's way above me. But when I think about it in simplistic terms, or people just ask me, that's pretty much how I respond. And, when we got the study, and we wanted to be that company in the Dallas area that got that study. And we went through University of Texas of Arlington, the engineering department, and they did a 2-year study on what we do. And again, that information is great to share with the engineers, but you and I, that's a sleeper at night, page 1, and you're out, because it's just so far beyond what the normal consumer can understand. So, it does its job to, to Scott's point. We don't get people calling us back and say, 10 years later, hey, our house moved, or, 6 years or a year or whatever. We're not perfect. We have some that will fail at testing, but we go back and we re-inject at no cost to the customer. We want it to be right, So, when you say, well, why does the world need to know this? Well, because it saves you thousands of dollars. This is something you do before. I always say you're building on a solid foundation. We are treating that soil down into the clay or below the clay level to make sure that what we're treating stays the same year after year, and you never have to call that foundation company. So that's why the world needs to know.